Journal entry 1 of subject 6. A man has stolen my face. In return, he's given me someone else's. He's actually given me many faces, though. Some he's taken back. Others I've kept. I've hung them on the walls of this place. It's a circular room like a pit with dark stony walls from which fall riles of gray water. I drink the water, I eat the black muck that accumulates on the floor. I think I might be at the bottom of a well. But it's fairly large, and I've never seen any light pour down from the top. The floor somehow emits a faint luminescence of its own, and it's by this light that I carry out my daily tasks. But beyond this, there isn't much to note. The man always enters via a thick iron door, something like what you'd think to find in some subterranean vault, which supports my belief that this isn't some well, but a dungeon. I don't know how long I've been here, nor how long I'll remain. He doesn't speak to me much, only comes to bring me new faces or occasionally take one away. I don't know what's happened to my face. I don't know what he does with other faces. He always comes in wearing one, usually one that's different from the one before, though sometimes he wears the same face all day or week. The increments of time are hard to judge in near complete darkness. I can't tell how long I sleep because my sleeps are inconsistent in length. The faces around me make it hard to rest. They're very chatty. I suppose I could also attribute some of the difficulty to my lack of eyelids. I find staring very rude, but with faces all around me, I can't help it. I can't look at the luminous floor. It would only make it harder to sleep. I've given up on trying to escape. The walls are too slick to climb, the vault door is impenetrable, and the faces whisper discouraging things to me, or guilt me out of trying to think of new ways to escape. They're lonely. And even though I've arranged them around the circular walls so that they can peer on each other, they look at me for comfort and companionship. I suppose I can understand most of them are hideous, and while I'm not very prideful of my appearance, I imagine I'm a much better sight than Sharon, or David, and especially Greg. Greg's face is mangled, as if it had been chewed on by dogs before being taken from him. The other faces sometimes bully Greg. I'd normally intervene, but Greg's personality matches his face very, very ugly. I've named the faces, but I have no idea if the names I've given them are close to their actual names. They seem to like them, though. No one ever argues when I call them by a new name, even when I forget and call them by a wrong new name. He doesn't know I've named them. I assume he has his own names for them, if he doesn't know their real ones. When he gives them to me, he usually says something like, "Oh yes, I think this one will fit you quite well, much better than the last." I suppose he's trying to find the perfect face to fit me. I also suppose he's forgotten that he took my face. I miss it. But I guess I have no other choice but to accept the faces and hope that one will match. The closest I've had to my own face was Bryce's. It was a snug fit. I could move my muscles comfortably beneath it and smile and frown. But when he entered and saw me frowning in it, he said, "Don't frown. You haven't the face for it. You're a smiler. But if you insist upon the grimace, I can fetch you a face more suitable for such rudeness." He then ripped Bryce's face off of me and left me with the others. I liked Bryce's face. Yesterday, or earlier today, or last week, I honestly can't tell anymore, and it's pointless to try. A hole opened up in the wall right where Andrew's face was. Poor Andrew fell face first to the floor, and I hurried and scooped him up next to Candace. She received him warmly, and I left him to become acquainted. The hole in the wall where Andrew had been was about face-sized, and there was a light that shone from it. I went over and I peered in, and I saw a man at a desk facing me. He was wearing a face that I hadn't seen before, one without any of the gunk or the smears that usually stain the faces. He greeted me, and I ran away, embarrassed to be seen unfaced. I quickly chose one I felt would best represent myself, and I returned, smiling as best I could. It wasn't quite like Bryce's, but it was good enough, suitable for the occasion. The man had patiently waited, and upon my return he greeted me again, and I told him the name of the face, and he greeted the face as well. He then offered me a pen, which I accepted, and then told me to write down my thoughts, my fears, my wants, etc. Later he said he'd return and take them. It would type them up for me and show them to the world. I didn't ask why he wanted to, didn't really want or care to know. It was just nice to know that someone was interested in me, the real me, beneath a stranger's face. I agreed, and he smiled and clapped his hands. But then I realized I didn't have anything to write on, and I told him so. But he wasn't disappointed or upset or embarrassed, and told me to wait a moment. Since he had been so patient with me, I nodded, and he left the desk, removing himself from my view. The room behind him was small, lit by a lamp on a dresser behind the desk. The walls were yellow, or made to appear so in the light of the lamp. There was a bed, low to the ground and well made. A laptop rested on the bed, closed shut, with its charger plugged into a socket in the wall. Despite the weakness of the bulb, the lamplight had almost blinded me when seen head-on, and I turned away from it. All the faces were very curious and whispered their questions, but I hissed at them and told them to shut up. The man in the hole returned a few moments later, and I was glad when he situated himself right in front of the harsh light. He handed me a roll of material and told me to write on it. I thanked him. He nodded, then covered the hole. I went and retrieved Andrew's face and returned it to the spot. The faces were quite fond of where I hanged them, and I asked if he enjoyed his visit with Candace. The mouth was agape as if he'd been screaming when he was taken from his body. But he told me that he enjoyed his time with Candace, that she was very well-mannered despite her disagreeable political views. He said that he wanted some time to think on whether or not she was worth having as a friend, so I patted his cheek and left him to reflect. The roll of material turned out to be some kind of thick paper or parchment, though it's inconsistently colored, as if it had been dipped in various dyes during preparation. Some parts are vanilla-colored, others are darker, some even as pale as ivory. The whole thing is about the size of a game board, but not as square, thicker in areas, but otherwise suitable for writing. It's what I've been writing on for the last 20 minutes or so. The pen is a regular pen. Black ink. Flows comfortably. It's obviously a bit harder to see in the darker section of material, so I occasionally have to apply a little more pressure, and weirdly, this sometimes results in material peeling away in a really sickening fashion. I've had to ask the normal-faced man if he has more of the material should I need to recopy the thoughts I've written on the ruined parts. I must also ask him for a light. My only writing surface is the floor, and its light isn't strong enough to shine through the paper. Everyone wants to be mentioned. They've been tirelessly insisting upon being name-dropped in the story or journal, or whatever you'd call this. Mark has been considerably incessant. Well, here you go, Mark. You've been mentioned. Carol, however, hasn't made a single plea, so I'll give her plenty of mentions. Carol is nice and friendly, and her face is solemn and respectful. She presents herself well, unlike many of the others who let their mouths hang open or eye sockets stare horrifically. I should probably wash them, being their caretaker and all, but I haven't any soap or towels. And if I did, I'd use them to clean my own flesh, which incessantly itches. If I scratch it, there's a terrible pain. Really just awful, inexpressible agony. And he hasn't seen fit to provide me with anything to treat it. I hurt. Always. Especially after wearing a face for too long. Splashing the wall water on myself only causes my face flesh to burn terribly. Last time I did that, I lost consciousness. The pain had been that bad. I don't want to even imagine what would happen if I were to slather the floor gunk on my face. Tastes horrible enough. I think I'm going to go to sleep now. I like to rest against the wall beneath Luke and Christopher. I doubt they're a couple, but I like to see them as so. They're both very kind-looking, even though Luke's mouth stretches all the way up to his ears, and his nose is missing. It's really horrendous, but still. He seems like he'd be kind if he were alive. I can't really close my eyes anymore, so I just sit beneath those two and I wait for my brain to just shut off. I'm going to roll the journal up and tuck it beneath me so that if he enters, he won't see it. He doesn't make me stand up or anything, usually just rips the face right off my head without bothering to make me look at him, so I can sit here, and even if he comes in to take a face or give me one, he won't see the roll. I can't wait to share my story with the man in the hole. I wonder what he's going to do with it. I hope he publishes the journals to a big audience so that everyone will know how brave I've been despite the horrifying circumstances, and how well I've taken care of the poor faces. I think I'd be really, really good at doing it professionally. I'm much better at this than I was at being a pharmacy tech. I wonder if anybody's noticed my absence. Surely they've at least started to wonder. Nothing else to add for now. I'd really like my face back, or maybe even Bryce's. I'd really like to go home, but I'm scared that if I ask to again, he'll take away the faces as punishment. And while it's dreadful and terrifying and dark here, I at least have company. Without them, I think I'd lose my mind. Good night. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I wanted to tell you thank you for watching today's video on YouTube or listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. If you guys like hearing stories being told here on YouTube/podcast/ wherever you happen to be listening to stories being told, then you can always get some behind the scenes stuff. Check out twitch.tv/MrCreepyPasta, and sometimes I go live there. That's basically the end of the statement. Sometimes I'm live. A lot of the times I'm not. Sometimes when I'm live, I play video games. Majority of the time when I'm live, I'm attempting to work, but also I get wrapped up in talking about life stories or things. So if you ever wanted to know me outside of this, then hey, just check out twitch.tv/MrCreepyPasta. And I want to give a big thank you, as always, to all of my Patreon subscribers on Patreon. You guys are the real MVPs. You are the ones that allow me to do stuff like getting specific stories just for the channel. If you guys want to see more of that, then I would really, really, really love if you guys could help support on patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta, like some of these wonderful guys, such as Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stephanie Butler, Bobby Karman, Tristain Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, KhaosArts, Kryolinian, Milk and Miel, Celty Sturloson, Zachary, Graffius, It's All About That FOOKIN Music, Goreng, Trimagasi, Maria Walker, Tonya, Oran, paingravy, Krazy Kid, MrMarcusBlitz, Aika, Limchoc, Dirt Diver 030, Matt Bach, Jabbles, Raz, Voiceofsand, Coffee Zombie, Matthew McNeese, Shelly J, Jeremy H, Raltazal, Ficomel, Nana, Nick Weaver, Melted Lake, Tolly Sue, Sky Mara Ravenswood, William King, Darth Milver, Michael Ortiz, Satanic Aries, Nessie, Barterhawk764, Lambda M98, Harley, Billy Morrow, Sashi Suzaku, My Body Sounds Like Rice Krispies, Kaylee Ambrose, Suji Campbell, Stricken, Azarine Fox, Freddy Krueger, Nicholas Sicardi, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Cryptic Nightmares, Kiri the Sloth, Tommy Green, Fester Lampshade, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Paulson, Trace Miles, and Corey Kenshin. You guys, as well as everybody if you look down in the description, and everybody that can even just give $1 to be able to help things out. I really appreciate it. If you guys would like to join this list of names that I horribly mispronounce, check out patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. And honestly, even you guys who just listen, you watch, you comment, you like, you subscribe, thank you all. I really appreciate it. And sweet dreams.